This is it. Finally getting to part 2 of the 7 WSM series. It's range day and I'm really excited. Have a lot of high hopes that we're going to see some good results today. So what we are doing is shooting the 140 grain TTSX. We are going to be shooting 15 different loads, so it's going to take a while. And we're going to do it round robin. So what does that mean? Well, I'm going to shoot the first shot of the first load, and instead of shooting the second shot of the first load, I'm going to go shoot the first shot of the next load and go all the way up to the top charge and then go back down to the bottom charge. Estimated velocities for this, we're going to be ranging 3,000 to 3,200 feet per second, which is plenty good for me. And we're going to be going in 0.3 grain increments. The point of this is to leave no rock left unturned, so we are going to find something good today. First 4 shots are in. It's running hotter than I thought it was going to be, so that's interesting. Got a lot more to go. All right, first 5 rounds are done. It's shooting, again, faster than I thought it would. I might have to go a little quicker. I'm going to need to do more than 5 rounds in a half hour. But I'll show you the results. I have been shooting other guns while I'm up here. And I just shot a pretty darn group with the 300 Weatherby and the 210 ABLR. It's kind of a Christmas miracle, or post-Christmas miracle. I'll show you that. First 5 shots so far. Very interesting. Definitely a different points of impact shift. Okay, so highlight my 300 Weatherby. Yeah, that's maybe a 0.6, biggest 3/4, which for the 210 ABLR, that really is a miracle. First row, second shot groups, liking that. Velocity was almost identical too. That's the only really decent one out of the first row. I just started the second. That's not great, that's about 1 inch away. We'll keep going. I can almost tell which ones are going to shoot well. It's going to come back to bite me, but I think these 2 are going to shoot really well. I don't think this one's going to shoot well. This might shoot well. Just letting the barrel cool. This process does take a long time. All right, my next update. These aren't shooting as well as I'd hoped, but that's still within sub MOA. These stickers are 1 inch. Top row's very consistent so far, so that's showing some promise here. All right, guys, I'm running out of daylight, and the range is going to be closing in about 30 minutes. So shot number 3, I'm going to pick and choose the ones I'm going to shoot just because I'm running out of time. I'm only going to shoot the ones that actually shot well. So all right, back from the range, and joining me is Tim from the Little Crow Gunworks YouTube channel. Tim, it's great to have you on. Why don't you give us a little bit of an introduction about your experience with hand loading?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Austin. Again, my name's Tim. I'm with Little Crow Gunworks. If I can give you the 10,000-foot view of who I am and my background in this stuff. I'm currently 42. My grandfather taught me how to hand load when I was, I'd say 14, and been into it ever since. Got really addicted at some point. I don't remember when, probably early 2000s. And I've been specifically obsessed with long range shooting, all that it takes to do that sort of thing. And I think I bought my 338. I started getting into long range shooting with a 338 Lapua Magnum. And I think I bought that in, I want to say 2005. I always like to say I had a 338 Lapua before it was cool. When I bought mine, Armalite made one, which is what I had. And Sacco made the TRG 42 and nobody else made it. Those are the only 2 companies that even chambered it. So got into it, and started shooting some ELR just recreationally, never competing, but did it on my own, and we still do it now. Some buddies of mine and I, when we go out and shoot prairie dogs, we'll shoot ELR and try to shoot, something over 2,000 yards every time we go. And we've been successful doing that, and that's led me down, I guess, a long pursuit, probably 20 years now, of trying to figure this out, trying to figure out how to wring the most precision out of any given system, and what to look for when you're doing load development, and how to get to what the gun's telling you without like spending the whole barrel life testing this powder and that powder and this bullet and that bullet. Like, I'm to the point now where if anybody's seen any of my videos, I basically go into if I'm going to load for a cartridge, I pick a bullet and that's the bullet. There's no, I'm going to try these different bullets and see what the gun likes. I pick the bullet and that's the bullet and I'm going to make it shoot. I'll try different powders and figure out what it wants, rather than, I feel like what's a big thing now is guys will buy a whole bunch of different bullets and one powder and then try to find them the magic combination that wants to shoot, where I go at it the other way. I think that's a better way to do it, is pick the bullet for the job, whatever the job is, and then figure out the powder that it wants to make it shoot. So yeah, so I guess that's and now I've been working at Little Crow Gunworks for a little over 2 years, and trying to help Dale, the owner. Dale Hegstrom happens to be a friend of mine, and he's been my gunsmith for many years now. And he and I decided to team up a couple of years ago, and I've been working to grow the business however I can since December of, what would that be, 22. And it's been going really well. And you know, like anything with these YouTube channels, it takes a little while to get it off the ground, but I feel like it's going really well. And now we're just trying to figure out how to get more eyes on it. So
yeah,
that was a long intro, but I wanted people to have a little backstory on me, and you know, so when they hear how I talk and the way I look at these things, it's not as much of a shock, I guess.
Right. Well, should we go ahead and look to see what this gun's telling us?
I think so.
Are telling us? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and if you're okay with it, maybe you pull it up and tell me when you shot it, kind of what your initial reaction was, and then.
I was kind of giving you some updates while we were shooting. My initial impressions were, at least in the first row, 1 through 5 shots, I was thinking, man, there's a lot of point of impact shifts. Something is a little off. I said in the video, you haven't seen this, but I said earlier in this video that I think 8, 9, and 10 showed the most promise. So
at what point?
After the first shot.
Right. So you had one shot. So, and I assume people already know how you shot this, how it was in round robin order.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Right. So you basically put one shot of each charge weight on the board. And after one shot of each charge weight, you had a pretty good idea of where you were going to land. Especially
9 and 10. They were basically the exact same point of impact. And based off of what I've been learning from you, this is probably going to be the groups that work the best.
Right. And maybe I can expand on that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So for people that have watched, may or may not have watched any of our videos on our 7mm Showdown series, I've been talking about this 10-shot reloading method. And it can be 10 shots or 12 shots or whatever, but the gist of it is that you take one shot of each charge weight. So let's say he has 15 charge weights here. Let's say he loaded up just one of each charge weight and then shot all 15 at the same bullseye and put a camera on it and recorded that bullseye to try to see where each shot is hitting. Well, this 10-shot test, or however many shots you end up doing, what I've been saying in the series is that what you're looking for is you have your shots and they start to, so let's say the first one goes here, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Well, at some point, they're going to start stacking up in the same place, which is what you're saying that you saw, where 9 and 10 hit the exact same place. Well, I found in my experience that just doing one shot of each charge weight, if the gun shoots relatively small, just one shot of each charge weight is kind of enough to tell you about where it's going to be. Now, doing more shots like this, spreading them out and having 3 shots per charge weight and putting them at their own point of aim, it just makes it higher resolution because then you get more data points and it makes it easier to see. Now, if you have a gun that shoots big and it's not a super precise gun, like if you took all the shots on the board and you put them together as an aggregate, so on charge weight number 1, the shot that is the lowest, that was your cold bore shot, right? So let's say we theoretically eliminate that. and then we combine all the remaining shots together, the aggregate group would probably be under 2 inches from what I'm seeing.
Okay.
So if you have 15 different charge weights and the ag is 2 inches or smaller, I would call that a gun that shoots average to smaller than average.
Okay.
Makes sense? Where
Yeah.
if you have a gun that shoots big, what that means is if you did that and did 15 different charge weights and shot an aggregate all at the same place, the group, instead of being 2 inches, it'd be like 3 or 4 or 5. That's a gun that shoots big. And if you have a gun that shoots big like that, you're not going to be able to do that 10-shot test because it's so low resolution. You're never going to get, if you get 2 shots together, it's going to be a coincidence more than anything. Okay. Where the smaller the gun shoots, I've found the more accurate that 10-shot test can be. And doing it this way, where you're doing 3 shots of each charge weight, it's just higher resolution. Makes it easier to pick it out. But you said in your instance, after 1 shot, you had a good idea of where it was going to be.
And can I point something out? At 15, I had 2 touching, but I just had this feeling because of where it landed on the cardboard from the bullseye, it wasn't going to be something consistent.
And that's great. That's great that you pointed that out because I was going to get there. But go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So you probably don't know where that 3rd shot is, but it's right next to the 14. That's how bad it was. The bullet hole to the left of 14 is part of 15.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't realize that because I didn't go through each one. I'm looking at your velocity numbers here. Yeah, you only have 2 velocities next to charge 14, but there's 3 bullet holes there.
Yes, that's not part of 14.
yeah, and I didn't. Just going back, I didn't not get there, and you didn't interrupt me. It's not that I was going to get there eventually at some point in our conversation. That if you look at the point of impact location of 15, the only one that shares that commonality that far out is charge weight 11.
Yeah.
So the other thing you're looking for here too is like a most common point of impact location. That oftentimes too will tell you approximately where you should look. So with all these different charge weights, if you think about where their average point of impact location is for the 2 or 3 shots or however many are there, and then you look at this board, the 2 most common point of impact locations are essentially the top of the circle, the bottom of the circle, and then toward the lower right corner, quadrant of the circle. So if we look at, if we say, okay, the lower right quadrant has a common point of impact. Charge weight 2 is there, charge weight 6 is there, charge weight 12 is there, charge weight 13 is there. And then if we look at the bottom of the circle, I would say the average point of impact location, other than your cold bore shot on 1, I think 1, well, I guess 1 would have been in that lower right quadrant with 2 in the others. But as far as the bottom center of the dot, charge weight 3 is there, 4 is there, 5 is there. I would say 7 is kind of averaging the bottom of the circle. And I think that's it. So you see the commonalities I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're never going to want to pick something that's off in the rhubarb, like 15 and 11. That's the least common point of impact location, I would say, on the whole board.
Yes, it is. I agree.
Because 14, the 2 shots that belong to 14 are at the top, that would be, a top point of impact location. So 14, 10, 9, 8, those are all at the top. So that's one thing I'll look for too is where's the gun wanting to shoot is what I call it. Like, where's it trying to shoot? And you see, as we go through the board here, it kind of transitions from one place to the other. So let's assume maybe we should talk about the state of the rifle going into this and why we're having to speak in so many hypotheticals and maybe why this seems a little bit erratic.
So when I sent you a picture of this group or this whole board, you text me almost immediately, said something's up, something's wrong. And I was like, yeah, probably, because the point of impacts are just all over the place. And we started naming through some of the things that could be wrong, whether it's how foul is your barrel? Like, when's the last time I cleaned my barrel? How did I clean my barrel? Could also be the action screws. And I think we came down to a decision that it was a very foul barrel. I haven't cleaned it in a very long time. I'll be honest, with your standards, my cleaning methods aren't good enough. We'll say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we haven't really walked through, I guess, how thoroughly I expect the barrel to be clean. But what I can say is that, because you said the gun's relatively new, right?
Yes.
So you got the gun new, probably cleaned it when you brought it home.
Yes.
And started shooting it.
Yes.
If you had cleaned it anywhere in there, it hasn't been for a long time, right?
Correct.
Okay, so what I've been talking about on our channel is typically what we like to do is after we build custom rifles. So after we build the rifle, we'll clean the barrel right after it's machined, and then we start shooting it as well. We don't do any special break-in process. I really don't believe in that. I don't think it does anything positively or negatively, but we start shooting it, and we'll put about 80 rounds down the barrel and then scrub it down to bare steel, then put another 20 down it to kind of get it re-fouled or seasoned enough that it behaves. And then we started load development at that point. And I feel like that protocol at that point, once there's 100 rounds on the barrel, it's been cleaned recently, but shot in enough that it should behave. That's the point at which the rifle is ready to give you good data and predictable results and not have erratic things happen. So based on my experience of doing that process, which you weren't privy to or didn't, just slipped your mind or whatever the case may be, when I go into a ladder test with 100 rounds on the barrel and it's been cleaned recently and it shoots like this, I know something's up, because it shouldn't look like this. So like you said, you sent it to me and I looked at it for 3 or 4 seconds and I'm like, okay, something's up, just because of what I was seeing. And we can walk through that a little bit if you want, but
sure.
You said you kind of had a feeling too, just by looking at it, that something was up, but
yeah, it was just all over the place. I only had 3 sub MOA groups, and none of them were anything to write home about either. Especially group number 9, where I have an ES of 2 and it's still a 3/4 inch group.
Just by looking at it, I had an inkling that something was up based on the fact that it wanted to shoot, meaning there were strings where the average point of impact location was the same, like let's say 3, 4, and 5, where they're all kind of around the bottom edge of the circle. And then 8, 9, and 10 are all top half of the circle. The fact that it was giving us consistent point of impact location, and it was also giving us pairs of shots that overlap within that. Like if you look at 4, that has 2 shots touching, as does 9, as does 2, and 15. So like the gun's telling us it wants to shoot, but something's up.
Yeah.
Because it had series of charge weights that are in the same place, and it's overlapping shots, and then congruently with that, when it throws a flyer, like if you look at charge weight 4, when it throws a flyer, it's an inch away. That's a huge red flag for me. If a gun's doing this, where it's sequential charge weights are hitting in the same place, it's overlapping shots, and it's bigger than number 9, something's wrong. Okay. Like number 9 should be the big end of a flyer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like how 15, I didn't even know that shot that's down by number 14 was part of 15. All you would have had to show me was that. And I would have been like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
It should overlap 2 shots and then throw one 2 inches away. Well, why don't you tell me what you think we're going to see? I guess where we're going to go from here, what the next step is, and what you're hoping to see, what you think you want to test next. And
what I'm going to be doing next is hopefully properly cleaning the barrel, using the right solvents or oils to get it down. I think I want to retest group 4 and group 9. The first two shots of group 4 were within 1 foot per second of each other. And then that third one kind of ruined my ES by 18.
But it also went off in the rhubarb too.
That's true.
That tells us that, something's up, because the shot that was erratic drastically screwed up your group and your velocity metrics.
And then, I mean, you told me from the beginning, group 9 is going to be the one that most likely shoots, and it's going to be the one you're probably going to be going with, and it's going to be the most consistent. And I agree.
Yeah, I think so too. At this point now, seeing the whole thing and having the whole picture, I agree that I think charge 4 can be stable. I'd like to see how that shoots, like we said, on a clean barrel that then is refouled and ready to give us good data. I'd like to see what 4 can do. And some of this, maybe we don't need to get in the weeds on this now, and we can later, but I think about some of this stuff through the context of long range too, and how it's going to perform at distance, because that's my shtick. And from what I'm seeing, I think 9 is going to perform the best at long range. Even if you clean the barrel, reseason it, go out and test 4 and 9, and there's one other one I'd kind of like you to test, but even if you go out and shoot 4 and 9, and 4 shoots consistently smaller than 9, I think 9's going to shoot better at long range. And when we don't have to go into why now, we can go into that later. Let's see what happens, and then we'll dangle that carrot out there and see what happens. But because that's the intent, right? We're going to do this, and then when you're done, you're going to shoot it at long range, and or whatever contenders we have. I honestly think if we're going to test 3 different charge weights here and they all shoot respectably, I think you should stretch them all out and see what we can glean from that, and pick a winner. Be the deciding factor. Like I've said on our channel, like, don't let the 100-yard groups paint you into a corner. Let the 100-yard groups kind of tell you, let that be a barometer for what the gun's trying to tell you. Mm-hmm. And then go shoot them at long range and let that pick the winners and losers.
Well, then I wasn't going to get into why I'm probably not going to try to go with 13.
Okay.
However, I'm very curious, what other number do you want me to try?
Well, that's what I was going to say, was maybe not necessarily 13, because when I do this, if I get 2 that have 2 charge weights in a row that have a very similar point of impact location, like 12 and 13. Mm-hmm. So if we look at 12, we have 2 consistent shots and a flyer. Mm-hmm. And we have to take the, whatever you want to say, liberties of being able to make some exclusions here due to the condition of the barrel. So I would call that third shot on 12, I'd call it a flyer, just due to the condition of the barrel. Okay. So if we eliminate that flyer and look at the 2 remaining, and then look at the 3 shots on charge weight 13, if you combine those 5 shots together, I don't think your group would get any bigger than that 0.733. Or if it did, it would be a very minor amount.
For group 12, I had an ES of 24.
Yeah, so 12 was an ES of 24 and 13 was an ES of 25, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that I'll notice that too sometimes on the high end, where like what we're seeing here, you had an ES of 18 on charge weight 4, and then the sweet spot is charge weight 9 in both of our opinions, where ES was 2 for 3 shots.
Correct.
And then we go up to 12 and 13, and we're starting to get up near the top of the pressure ceiling. And I found that when you do that, even if you find something that groups decent, there's going to be something about it that's erratic, where either the point of impact is inconsistent time to time when you take it out. Like, you took it out this day and it shot at 4 o'clock on that green circle. Well, next time you take it out, it might hit somewhere else. And then next time you take, without you changing the scope. And also too, the ES is climbing too, which I've noticed in my experience as well. When you get up near the top, the ES starts getting crabby. So that's telling us that that's probably too high, but I think it's worth maybe loading in between 12 and 13, and just throw another group out there and see what you get.
Okay.
It costs you 3 shots, just to, and don't change your scope at all. Don't change anything, so we can, from test to test, see if the point of impact is remaining consistent, the point of impact location. So that's what I would do, is I'd probably bring out 6 shots of charge 4, 6 shots of charge 9, and maybe 3 shots of 12.5. Test those, and I'd do the same thing, test them round robin, but bring the gun out. You said you loaded something, or you're going to load something to foul it?
Yes.
You decided what you're going to use? You have some bullets you're trying to get rid of or something?
The ABLR. You know, the most expensive fouling bullets.
Well, I think you fought with those things enough.
Yeah, it's time to get rid of them.
We've talked about that. Those just, you can make them shoot, but they're just so.
You can.
I've made them shoot in my 300 Win Mag. I had loaded the 210 ABLRs, and I think I told you I had like 200 shots worth of load development to get it to shoot. And I got it to shoot unbelievably. Like, with that gun, I've shot cell phone size group at 1,000 yards, 3-shot group with that load. And but it's fussy, and it's right at the ragged edge where, like, it'll only shoot below 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So high pressure, and over 50 it just falls apart. So, but that's how those bullets are, man. They're just fussy. So anyway, all right, so we're gonna scrub the barrel, follow it with the ABLRs, shoot some groups, and see where we land.
Yep, it won't be this weekend. I'll be up in Idaho with 1/4-minute magnums. So
okay,
that's where I'm going to be. By the time this video airs, I'll be up in Idaho with 1/4-minute magnums shooting. Okay. And it'll probably be the next weekend that I get out and shoot. So
okay. And do you have maybe you talked about it in one of the other videos, you kind of have a goal for this? I know you set a kind of a velocity goal you were hoping for, but
well, I wanted it between 31 and 32, so I feel like Group 9 is giving me that sweet spot. I think it's plenty fast. And then probably 0.6, like 5/8 groups and smaller would probably be my goal.
Okay, that's a good
goal.
So
I think we're almost there.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And then, have you thought about extended range? Like, if you have a goal for that, past 100 yards?
Probably not yet. I think we need to talk and figure out what's reasonable for me. Okay. I've shot long range, but not enough to feel extremely confident at it. So,
sure.
I mean, ideally, sub MOA at whatever range that is would be my bare minimum. I hope.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it depends. We can talk more about this later, but I think it depends on the distance and the wind conditions.
Mm-hmm.
I think sub MOA vertically for sure.
Yes, I should have
be our goal.
Said that.
Yeah, and then depending on the wind conditions, that kind of dictates whether or not it's going to let you shoot a sub MOA group. But I think our goal should be for it to hold sub MOA vertical for sure, and it'd be nice if we can get it down to half MOA vertical. Okay. And that's the other thing maybe we should talk about maybe we'll wait until you shoot the following groups, but that's one thing I wanted to bring up that I didn't. If you look at 8, 9, and 10, look at how little vertical there is there.
Mm-hmm.
Almost none. I mean, you have across those, if you had all the green dots lined up perfectly and you lined up all those shots, it looks like we have a little over, it'd basically be 2 bullets with a tiny space in between. So center to center, that might be 0.3 or less. Center to center.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we want.
Yep.
That's the goal. Even if there's a little bit of horizontal, we want something that shoots as flat as possible at 100. That's going to translate at distance.
Correct.
So,
yep.
I think that's the spot to be, but we'll shoot the next test and see where we land.